Hello, everyone. I'm Felicia Rondo, and that's Cluster right over there.
Hey.
And today we're looking at a Sonic comic again, which is
Yeah.
super exciting. I fucking love Sonic comics so fucking much. And today we got a real doozy. Because
Mm-hmm.
after the really dicey events of the past story arc that's left Sonic in some hot water. We're moving on to a new storyline where Sonic and all the girls from the comics that we love are all going to this ever expanding city that Eggman's created that is just destroying the environment around it.
Yeah, it's just like, because it's a big city, it's self-replicating, self-repairing, and
Yeah,
it's sucking up all the natural resources and crawling over the area, and it's just like, basically just automatically doing what Eggman does all the time of just, destroying nature and replacing it with metal.
incredible story idea that ties into just the roots of environmentalism. Great idea from writer Ken Penders. But let's
Yeah.
stop stepping over Rotor's lines. He'll be talking about it in the comic itself. But for right now, I guess we should just jump right into the cover here, which is Play on Playa, which of course is
Mm-hmm.
referring to the past couple issues where evil Sonic, as we all know, went around posing as Sonic himself,
And
and
flirting with all the girls.
yeah, and quite
It was.
the
It was a wait.
what?
Hang on.
What?
Wait, I think I got a mistake here.
A mistake? What?
Well,
We're
this
talking
is
about the most way past cool comic. Sonic
we are
comic.
talking about the most really cool comic. We're talking about the comic where Sonic and the girls go to the ever-expanding city, and to stop it. But it says in my
That's Arc of Sonic
notes.
152. Yeah.
It says in my notes here we're supposed to be reviewing an issue 57.
What? That's not 152.
No, but
What?
double check. We are on schedule for issue
Uh,
57 today.
Fuck. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. My mistake. I there was a clerical error. Let's fix it. Right. Oh, right. The past 18 years of comic book history. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Sonic comics are kind of a miserable place to be a lot of the time. Um,
I think we just kind of our minds took us where we wanted to go, just some wishful thinking, and then now we were there, but now we're back here, and that sucks. But yeah, today we're looking at IDW Sonic number 57, where Sonic and Tangle, Whisper, and Landland for some reason are going to Eggman's ever expanding city to stop it from destroying the natural environment around it. Like,
yeah.
so that I guess is the first point we're making in this review.
Yeah, the first point we're making is that we've done this.
This has been done before.
We did this. We did this like years ago. We did this so many years ago that Ian Flynn had not written a Sonic comic when we did this.
Yeah. I really want to just go and read the issue 152, but we're here to review issue 157, not 150. Fuck.
Yeah, just
God,
57.
just
Yeah,
57.
honestly, with how the comic has been with 50 and 51, and then 56 wasn't that great, and then it was a terrible miniseries. Like, I feel like this comic might be kind of lucky to make it to 157. It would be
Yeah.
like even with the momentum they've had to get to 57. If a comic makes it this far, they're probably gonna go the distance just because like momentum and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. But before we do just sort of get into this comic, I do want to address the fact that there was a comic that came out that was a sequel to a comic that we reviewed, and we did not review it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
We
so
just weren't really feeling Monkey Prince. I'm sorry. We just ended up not like reviewing the rest of that series. No, Scrapnik Island. It sucked. It was bad.
we read issue
Issue
4.
4 sucked.
I
It was
actually,
bad.
I'll just say right here, y'all. I actually did buy it, which was probably really rough on the artist on the comic, who actually went out of his way to give me shit on Twitter for being a little petty about the comic, because I guess he has nothing better to do with his life. But yeah,
Yeah, it's
that
weird. Don't get on Twitter and harass your critics. Just if you want to talk to your fans, sir, don't don't be a fucking
lots of things came up with Scrapnik Island, and it just didn't feel right to review it. And also, it was a really bad comic. So yeah,
yeah. If you wanna get the gist of the story of Scrapnik Island issue 4, just watch the Sonic OVA. It's better.
yep. So
Also, it's just I hated it. God.
I'm I guess at the very least, this comic is not that. So it's got that going
Yeah.
for it.
So yeah. I wanted something I want to mention about Scrapnik 4. We read it. We read it together. And all that. I laughed out loud. I laughed out loud reading it
Oh yeah,
because of how blatantly it was just doing
the
the
OVA
OVA. Like,
ending. Yeah.
no, not even when we got to the ending, but before that, when I realized that the mind link was happening, like, no creative anything going on. Just, oh, let's just do the Sonic thing from when Metal Sonic, but with this crappy city Rusty Metal Sonic.
When Sonic reached out to Mecha, and then Mecha swatted his hand away, I was like, no. But it was happening. It was happening before my eyes. I paid $4 for it.
Yeah, paid $4 for something that you could have just gotten animated and better written.
But
Not
that
as
was
well voice
Scrapnik
acted,
issue
though.
4. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Toot my own and your own horn. Tooting our horns.
Yeah.
Horn tune. So yeah, this is 5057.
Yeah.
Right
And
on top from the cover, we've got Tangle and Whisper back together again. They haven't been seen together for a while. Since there was, that very dramatic like setup back in Trial by Fire, where Whisper had left because he did not want anyone there to be targeted by Mimic, and so she'd left to probably hunt him down.
probably. And
It was a bit, and Tangle, had gone through a lot of emotions during Trial by Fire, which we will review at some point in full. But like,
definitely.
to the end of it, she resolved to not quite quit the Resurrection,
No.
but just sort of work on a more hybrid work schedule or something. It was vague, and she set out to find Whisper.
Yeah, because Whisper was out there and not with the Resurrection because she didn't want Mimic to put anyone in danger. And that's why she wasn't with the Restoration.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
and yeah, I thought it was on purpose, but and then yeah, Tangle was actively out and actively searching for her, and that was the status quo we left, and I feel like someone's probably sort of told Ian Flynn that.
Yeah, so here in the cover, I remember when this cover got revealed, people were really excited because people love Tangle and Whisper.
Yeah, they'll have seen them together.
Yeah, and it's a really good, well drawn cover.
Yes, yeah, this was it's
She goes by DG Min.
yeah.
And not the most familiar, but great work. Great work. And definitely, I think she did a cover for Scrapnik Island, and it was also like really well drawn. But yeah, really good cover. We have Tangle here looking carefree. Whisper, who is covering her face with the mask again after notably in some of the last covers she was in the Tangle Whisper miniseries, she actually took her mask off with Tangle.
Yeah.
And it was symbolic to her emotionally opening up to Tangle, whereas here she is closing herself off again, like as was shown beautifully in the flashback in Trial by Fire by Evan Stanley.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah, and unless there's any more housekeeping to do, we should probably start getting into the comic and talking about the credits page.
Yeah, yeah. Story by Ian Flynn. Art by Adam Bryce Thomas. Colors by Matt Herms. Letterers by Sean Lee. Editors Riley Farmer, David Marriott. Those are the credits. The story so far page is kind of a mess.
So I think normally we just talk about like we don't talk too much about the story so far page for the most part, since it's literally just recapping like the past couple issues normally. But this one is quite a bit different since it's trying to remind people of comics that happened years ago now.
Yes.
The first three panels of the story so far are all from like around the 50 to 52
Yes.
by the look of it, and it's just like, hey, there was a city, and then they got out of it. The next two though are actually from. Are these both from issue 3?
Yes, both from issue 3 of Tangle and Whisper. One of
Yeah.
Ian's best stories yet.
Yeah. It's so it was, Whisper talking about the Diamond Cutters, that was her team back in the day. And so it's Tangle being like, "Oh, you're so cool," and then Whisper's like, "Thanks," with a little giggle, and then Whisper mentioning how that Tangle is her first friend that she's allowed to have herself since then, and how she can't stand the thought of losing anyone again, which is of course why she had left the Restoration as of the events of Trial by Fire.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I have no idea what comic this other panel came from. It's Lanolin, a character who has not existed as a character until just very recently and has not been featured in a comic in any significant way until literally this one. And I have no idea what to do with her. Anyway, telling Sonic and Amy that they're under attack. I don't know when this happened. I don't know what comic this was.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah. But anyway, the story so far page is trying to remind people of story events that happened a while ago and of a character that has had nothing but tiny cameo appearances so far and yet is being kind of treated as if we're supposed to know her, I feel like.
Yeah, which is one of those situations where the comic is sort of relying on you not only following the comic, but following the fandom around the comic, because the fandom has latched on to Lanolin over the years, and
and we should explain where Lanolin came from as best as we know, because Lanolin was a character that artist Adam Bryce Thomas, I believe, correct?
Yes.
She was a recurring background character that when he would draw issues, he'd put her in. I remember in particular there was an issue during Metal Virus where she was like in a chair and Sonic was on top of it, and she was very not liking that Sonic, who had Metal Virus, was on her chair. Rather reasonable.
Yeah.
But eventually it got to the point where I guess just because fandom response was good enough, they Lanolin was actually properly made into a character, and she got a design like revisit, approved by Sonic Team and everything to be a character, and that was a year and a half ago or more.
Yeah, because we first saw her like re-up design in Trial by Fire, I believe. No, it was Test Run.
Test Run, yeah.
Because we went to the
before
Restoration.
Trial by Fire.
Yeah.
So wait, that was 2 years ago.
No, yeah.
Almost. It was almost 2 years ago. No, it was about 2 years ago. But so it's taken 2 years, but Lanolin has apparently basically been an official character since then, and is only now getting a highlight. Like that was also when she got, I think, her first bit of dialogue ever, I want to say.
I mean, we just see in the Story So Far page her speaking dialogue.
Is this from before that? I don't.
Yeah, much before. Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I don't know what comic that's from.
Yeah.
So I have no way of knowing.
Yeah, but
Anyway.
that brings us to the comic itself.
Yeah. There was just some additional background stuff that needed to go over, but yeah, there is, as usual, a cast page.
It doesn't look very good, as per usual.
they really, really ought to just get like, I don't know, just get Evan Stanley or someone who to just do a one art of every character and use that. This whole using various arts from various comics with different line weights and different thicknesses and different lighting and just
I just look at
completely
this.
different takes on the characters and different shading styles and coloring and
You know, every single cast page is a complete just dismantling of anyone who says there's an IDW style also.
yeah. And if they ever paid attention to that and then stopped saying there was an IDW style, then maybe I'd appreciate the cast page. But the cast page has been this the entire time
And
it's
no
been the cast
one,
page,
it
and
hasn't made no effect.
yeah, people like the most anything about this one is that maybe you'll look at Lanolin the Seep, who is described as Woolen Warrior and Restoration Volunteer.
I would not call her a woolen warrior myself, based on this issue.
I mean, she has not shown herself to be a warrior before nor during this issue.
Mm-hmm. At any rate, as you open the actual comic.
Yeah, the comic opens kind of weirdly with a little narration box doing the only thing narration boxes ever do in Sonic comic nowadays, telling you where something is. And weirdly, when? Because it says Eggperial City, now.
Which, for people who don't read a lot of comics, for people who don't know that, you actually don't need to state the time before it's relevant.
Yeah, like there's a later part where there's a flashback and it says earlier, and that's fine, that's expected. But I have no reason upon opening up a comic to believe it is anything other than the current time.
Yeah.
Because that's what it, and even if it wasn't the current time, you would just say now afterwards, and I'd realize, oh, that wasn't now, this is now. Anyway, so it's a small nitpick, but it's really weird, and it stands out to me because like the people making this comic are professionals. Why would they do this? Is it because they think the children won't understand? Because I think the children would understand personally. I don't think you need to underestimate children that much.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Anyway, as we open the comic,
yeah. So we're here at Eggperial City again.
Thank Christ. Couldn't stay away from it for long.
Yeah. Lanolin and Whisper are both scouting out. Lanolin with just her eyes and Whisper with her... So I guess it just occurred to me, she's holding her Wispin up and pointing, I guess in case she needs to shoot something, because her scope's actually in the mask. She doesn't need to point the gun. And immediately we are presented with a new character thing for Lanolin that has never come up before and isn't being explained. It's just kind of here now. She has I want to say...
It's some kind of musical note wisp.
Yeah, there's a musical note wisp. I forget what color it is because purple and violet were both dark wisps. And is this indigo wisp? I think this is the indigo wisp.
Indigo's a fun color.
Yeah, so I think she has what's known as an indigo wisp, which is the music note one. I never played a game featuring it. And it's just kind of here. Suddenly.
We'd never seen her with it before.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I don't know why we're starting here and not starting at what later is a flashback. I don't get this comic. I don't know what they're doing.
Gotta start with a bang. Gotta start with action.
People are not going to put down your comic just because it has a meeting slightly into it. I don't know.
Gotta have some action-packed action in this comic.
Anyway, Lanolin and Whisper basically see that there's no particular amount of security going on.
Yeah. Lanolin finds suspicious.
Yeah. Saying it's almost like Dr. Eggman wants us to invade, which Sonic takes as his cue.
Then it'd be rude to refuse his invitation, right? And he and Tangle are charging forward.
Yeah, Sonic
With
running, Tangle turning herself into a wheel like Vector used to do in one game.
ah, and and Tangle just exclaims as a wheel, um, "Woohoo! Surprise attack!" As Lanolin watch on, looking very upset that the two hot-headed members of the Restoration that they invited are being hot-headed
Yeah,
and hasty.
yeah. Lanolin, just yells, "Do they have to be so reckless?" Uh,
And
and Whisper, with a very pained expression, a noted pained expression on her face, just whispers, as he always does,
it's how they
"It's
are. Yeah.
yeah." Um,
And Lanolin retorts, "Yeah, well, they need to understand they can't beat the odds forever." And then
yeah,
Whisper, reminding us of what the story so far page reminded us that she knows that you can't beat the odds forever better than anyone because her
because the
friends did it.
Diamond Cutters were all brutally murdered by Shadow androids
Yeah.
from Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Specifically, the ones from Shadow the Hedgehog, and not the ones from Sonic Heroes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sonic and Tangle are in the city now and fighting, and there's robots, and they're breaking them,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's more robots, and then they're scary and they hit the ground hard. Um, and then Lanolin is here.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he ran after them,
Yeah.
and yells for
Tangled to
Tangle to
get
get
behind.
behind her.
Yeah.
And then she has a cowbell around her neck. I think that was added in her redesign.
I think it was always there. You can see it in
Okay.
the yeah. But yeah,
And she plinks it. Um, and her wisp does a thing. I'm not really clear how this all is supposed to work because none of this has been explained to us. Something that comics used to do is just explain things ever.
yeah.
Um, and not even in the meeting is it explained like what Lanolin's abilities are or how she'd be useful to the team, which you'd think would come up. But anyway, it makes a sound wave, and then it seems to knock the robots off balance, and then Whisper, is he jumping in the air?
She jumps in the air and does something with her variable wispin that
He
blows
shoots
something up.
like the cyan wisp through the robot. If you can't tell, the accent isn't very clear.
We've had this
Um,
problem with Adam Bryce Thomas's art multiple times before, and it's not getting better.
yeah, and also just with Ian Flynn's scripting, I because
Generally,
it
when it's Ian scripts, yeah, the action becomes less clear no matter who the artist is,
I
really.
don't think Ian Flynn is very good at scripting accent. He keeps doing it, but like I have to stare at these comics for like multiple minutes to decipher them.
In point of fact, he's been doing this for over 15 years, so yeah,
Yeah, I
it you can't really avoid criticizing him for it when he should really be better at this by now.
yeah, I wish he was either better at like choreographing the accent or he just pulled back on doing it because like anyway, we'll get into it more, but there's a moment in particular where like a robot tries to squash Sonic, but then he like I guess sidesteps, and it's portrayed by him standing in the same pose, but one of them is transparent, and there's like speed lines, and it's just kind of weird. Like it's I think it's trying to do like a comedy beat, but not enough panel space with allocate. You need two panels for this.
Yeah,
But like instead, the panel that would have been allocated for it was devoted to Whisper in the air doing a flip and blasting a robot.
mm-hmm.
We never see her jump; she's just in the air now.
But Lanolin very frustratedly asks Sonic and Tangle, pardon me, "Did you two forget why we're here?" Which segues into our flashback. Restoration HQ earlier.
Yeah, which is where this comic could have just opened, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, Sonic speeds into a meeting room that is filled with all the other characters from the castpades.
Yep.
They're the only characters in this comic.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the castpades would have, only some of the characters, and there'd be, a couple more, but in this case, it's just them.
Just but
Yeah.
yeah, Jewel asked Sonic for a favor, so he came along, and Sonic finds a little meeting with of course Jewel, Tangle, Whisper, and some sheep he doesn't know.
Yeah. It's not a joke. He does not know her.
Yeah, yeah.
Which at least that part is correct.
So Sonic asks if it's a surprise party, because of course, if there was a surprise party for Sonic, he knows who'd be invited. Jewel, Tangle, Whisper, and a sheep he doesn't know. But yeah, Jewel.
I mean, it could be a surprise party for someone else, and they wanted him to attend.
Yeah, I guess so. It's just
Yeah.
they're their friend that they all know, who only knows them best.
Anyway,
Jewel
goes into an explanation about how the restoration has been focused on rebuilding and humanitarian efforts, which is good for us to know because we haven't actually seen the restoration do anything ever.
Which is something that could have been gone over if we didn't constantly cut away from every character's life until action was happening in it. But
Yeah, like honestly, I think a problem with the restoration is that it really doesn't feel like an organization, in part because it feels like it just kind of does whatever a writer needs it to do in the moment and then stops existing.
it's not a element to the comic that feels tooled to what the comic has clearly decided it wants to be.
I mean, not only that, but like, there are other organizations in other comics, whether it's like Sealed in Marvel or just like,
Mm-hmm.
A villainous thing or a heroic thing or whatever. But like, when I think about the restoration and what they've actually done, all I can think of is that they communicate to Sonic characters from the games and get them to come together and point them at problems. You know?
Yeah.
You never see or get a sense of what the restoration does outside of that. In one comic, over in Zeddy Hunt, we saw that the restoration apparently has like security forces in cities.
And detainment procedures, as seen with Zalmom when he was.
Which was gross, but of course, according to another different comic, the restoration is about to start taking prisoners.
This is kind of a mess.
Anyway, and like they have a base, and it's a cool base. It's got like a food court and a secret elevator and a massive open hole in a side of a mountain. Kind of defeating the point of the secret elevator.
Yeah.
Also, apparently the Victory Garden was on a cliff, a very steep cliff. I don't know.
Lanolin has made a case, Jewel explains, for how the restoration can expand, because, we've already gone over its present operations so well already. Let's move on to different stuff.
Yeah, all the things it does that we never see.
Lanolin remarks that they're building a rapid response team to both protect people and take the initiative against any threats they can detect.
Which, as we've established in us reviewing the comic, is the only thing the restoration has ever been shown doing on panel.
It's an all-volunteer squad. So far, there's Tangle, Whisper, and Lanolin. She explains.
And Tangle butts in to say that it's good to have Whisper around again, bestie.
And Whisper does not respond. Instead, respond to Sonic as he whispers, "You feeling all?" He doesn't whisper because this is the whispering dotted line outline, and that's not there him. So he's just saying, "Hey, you feeling all right after that business with Surge?" With his like hand uselessly in front of his mouth.
Yeah.
And then Whisper just says, "I'm fine."
Yeah. In case, of course, we talked about the status quo that was left by Trial by Fire, but of course Whisper showed up recently in the Overpowered storyline.
Yes.
because he happened to be in an area and Surge happened to be attacking it, and so there was a problem and she tried to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
Which ended very badly. Her variable Wispin was completely destroyed. Her wisps were all captured and taken by Surds. That must have been really traumatizing for them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then she was left to pick up the pieces quite literally. And Bell offered to help fix the variable Wispin. Um, and when the Overpowered Story arc ended, Sonic was leaving to return the Wisps back to Whisper, and
Oh, I'm sorry. I just fell asleep. I'm so glad we didn't go over that. That would have been so boring.
let's be just serious and say it sucks that we didn't get any resolution on that.
Yeah, it does.
We
Sincerely.
we don't get to see Whisper getting her Wispin back. We don't get to see Whisper reuniting with her Wisps. We don't even get just a heartwarming panel, just to have her hugging them with the sound of the fixed Wispin there at the side to just be like, yeah, it's fixed also, but this is the important part, the relationship. We get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially given the fact that these 5 Wisps, are not only her friends, they alongside the variable Wispin are the last reminders he has of the Diamond Cutters. Something that's going to be coming up in just a page or two.
Yep. So it really.
It really sucks that no comic time was devoted to that. Especially, as I'm going to be talking about in this issue, there is a lot of wasted panel space. Where
Yeah.
you could have just put a thing in here in this particular issue.
Mm-hmm. Also, I just feel like noting that Whisper's skin is colored noticeably lighter than it usually is. Um. Anyway, Sonic asks what the favor is that Juliet was asking him, and Lanolin says that they heard about his time in Dr. Eggman's new base, and by heard they mean they have data for some reason. And
Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, actually, I didn't realize it is a bit inconsistent what they're claiming to know about Eggropolis.
Eggperial City.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, Eggopolis.
Yeah. Lanolin says that she wants to take their team in, find out exactly what's going on there, and prepare a way to bring it down. Basically, a stealth and reconnaissance mission.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Just to get data.
Mm-hmm.
And Jewel says that while all three of them are quite capable, oh, especially Lanolin with all her field experience, this is Dr. Eggman we're talking about, and Jewel was hoping that Sonic would lend his experience and expertise to the mission. And Sonic says, sounds fun. I'm in.
I assume that Ruse was not picking up her phone.
Yeah, yeah. And then Sonic asks, "Do you have a team name?" And here comes the part that when it got revealed in preview pages, people were not thrilled about.
How do you all feel about forced, really unnatural drama that could just easily be fixed by anyone talking to anyone? Just any communication. Which is why, of course, the setup to this drama is followed up by 3 panels with no dialogue.
Tangle votes Diamond Cutters. Lanolin says, "Nice, that sounds cool." And Whisper, with a very just it just feels out of character.
A really, really out of character, enraged expression glares over at Tangle,
and then turns to look down and with Tangle smiling over at her, but then the aura surrounding Whisper becomes fiery red. This is not going to lead to anything. She is just very quietly angry.
Yeah, and then Tangle start looking very uncomfortable, and her smile becomes strained, and then doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Doesn't mention anything. Doesn't say that maybe not that, and Whisper doesn't object, and Tangle, even though she notices her friend being distressed, and can very much understand and has the capacity to figure out why she wouldn't like it. She doesn't say anything, and we just move on.
Zero communication.
Because this is here so that next issue or maybe the issue after Whisper can have a big emotional explosion and be like, I don't like that you did that, and then Tangle can have a heartfelt apology and be like, I'm sorry I did that, and then they can kick ass with a big dramatic pose,
and then the Avengers will assemble.
And it's the thing about this forced drama is not only is it really boring when it happens, it's really obvious how it's going to end.
Yeah.
Because it's going to end the way it always ends. Because the thing about this drama, it's annoying because anyone in real life could stop this.
Yes.
And as a result, nothing big can come of it, or it will be so frustrating that people will quit the comic.
Yeah,
because if you actually have stakes from this kind of annoying forced drama, nothing is more annoying.
Yeah. In storytelling, sometimes you stretch the characters to fit like the story moment that you want to get to. But also in comic books, with these characters that you're crafting in any story, you want to make characters that people can identify with, and a lot of people very much identify with Tangle the Lemur, and they also particularly identify with Tangle Whisper's relationship, and so when there is such a clear and jarring disconnect between Tangle or Whisper or their relationship and how anyone in real life would operate in a social situation, that can be really jarring, and it very much was for a lot of people who were very much looking forward to this comic based on the promise of the cover. So, that's rough. Anyway.
Yeah. As we said, the comic just flat moves on from that moment to keep going, and to keep the drama happening later.
Yep. And Layla remarks that she's been looking forward to working with Sonic for a long time, with her fingers all together, tented.
Yeah, she's been having her fingers laced together, basically this whole meeting, and like have making very cool poses and making very cool composed expressions. And
yes.
I just want to say, I wanted to say this for later. I have no idea what they're doing with her character. It's not what they were doing last time we were with her character.
She was very, nervous. Like her nerves were shot.
Yeah, also, I'm just referencing, the last time we saw her. And the last time we saw her, Lanolin the Seep was very much being set up as a just very crude, very no nuance, just
caricature of bipolar disorder.
Basically, yeah. That. Thank you for those words. And that's not here.
Yeah.
It's. I don't know. I guess maybe someone said something. Maybe someone noticed and wrote in and was uncomfortable. Maybe the editors realized that maybe this was a bad idea. I don't know, but however it went, maybe it's just that now that Susan got a bigger focus, someone actually noticed what was being done and said, no, don't do that. I don't know. But her character has just completely shifted to a different one. Now she's a kind of composed, office worker lady kind of thing. And, when things go wrong, she gets really frustrated because she seems to want things to go well. But, we have no setup for, how she's supposed to be in a neutral situation. So it's hard for me to tell if she's supposed to be cool and composed and right now the situation is just so much that her nerves are frazzled, or if she just gets frazzled easily. I don't know this character, and this is a terrible way to introduce her.
And speaking of people who don't know this character, Sonic finally says, zero offense, but I don't think we've met, to Lanolin. And Lanolin is like, it was brief, and you were busy. You saved my town of Riverside from a bandit invasion a while back, she says with a very, very bubbly expression suddenly.
Yeah, which I take to just be like, Sonic, he's so cool. Hero worship a bit before I realize he's really frustrating.
You inspired me to do more, so I joined the Restoration. Soon, I was working directly with Director Jewel. And then There's this panel that's really close up on their hands as Sonic takes Lanolin's hand in his,
And
which
and the Indigo Wisp is just looking at it, and it almost always a half-lidded expression, so it looks really fucking bored all the time.
yeah,
Which, I relate.
yeah, it just it's just the focus on the hand holding. I'm like,
Hmm.
did someone misallocate the budget and spend all their hand holding budget on Sonic and Lanolin and not Tangle and Whisper? Because that's the thing people want to see. No one's like clamoring for Sonic and Lanolin except maybe out of Bryce Thomas. I don't know. I
I
never
don't
met him.
know. I mean, I imagine there's probably a few people sipping Lanolin with Sonic, but I think that's because every new girl character gets sipped with Sonic initially before they find a different hole to put her in, which will probably be Zool, I assume. That was a weird phrasing. Ignore that. Moving on.
Sonic, after at long last, has found the woman of his dreams, a secretary sheep.
She wears like
Anyway,
cargo pants. She's got fingerless gloves.
basically meant to be. Um,
I don't.
So Sonic, after saying it's a pleasure to meet her
Her
again
design
for the
is
first
really
time,
generic.
it is. Yeah.
It looks like anybody's Sonic OC. This is just what anyone puts Sonic characters in. I've seen Tails wear pants like this. People just do this. It's just a generic Sonic fandom thing that people do. It's not that good of a design. Sorry, I've just seen people praise her honestly,
I have
really
definitely
plain and generic design. It's not that
seen
interesting.
her design get called like god tier, and it's not. I mean,
Yeah. Also, just that phrasing
yeah,
is bad. But
fuck it. But yeah. Sonic asks when they plan to leave for the mission. Leon says they're ready if he is, and Sonic says I was born ready, so they were born ready too because they were ready if you.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're back to the present day, and
Also, I just want to mention Sonic's head looks really, really flat in this panel.
yeah. Yeah, he has the three quills that Yukawa Yuji draws, but they don't really work really well for this drawing.
They weren't drawn well here, as I think, like, because I like the Sonic X like
Yes.
three quills when done well. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think this was it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few times where I find that Sonic looks particularly bad in this comic.
Just going to the next page after that kind of flat-looking drawing, Sonic's quills have much more like depth to them.
Yeah,
But yeah, Sonic remarks that slow and sneaky isn't really his thing as we return to the present day, and
and Tangle says, "I'm still getting used to this whole team dynamic." Which is weird because he's been working pretty naturally as part of a team or a duo, like, the whole time?
yeah,
Like, in fact, I'm pretty certain her debut didn't she, like, immediately start working together with Sonic and, like, doing combo attacks and, like she uses her tail to as support, like,
mm-hmm.
I actually, when I think about, like, every action scene she's been in, I only think about her working together with others.
Yeah, I can't really.
She rarely, if ever actually goes solo.
Mm-hmm. Like, all I can think of for a solo battle is when she was briefly fighting Mimic alone.
Yeah, and that, wasn't the plan and wasn't supposed to happen and didn't go well, because I don't think Tangle actually does work solo or work well solo.
Mm-hmm. That's why she needed backup in that. Anyway, enough about a better
Anyway,
comic.
I mean, honestly, I just feel like this isn't, like, it's not actually doing Tangle's character. Like, she's being put into the box with Sonic, who is definitely a solo player, though he can work in a team just fine.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think just to put a point of schism between her and the others more, and, like, yeah, Cersei runs ahead with Sonic, but it's not because she's bad at teamwork.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Lanolin says to Whisper honestly about Tangle, how do you handle her? And Whisper says simply, I don't.
It should be noted that Whisper has had her mask on the entire time as well. When normally she puts it to the side when she's talking with others.
Mm-hmm.
And she has not been doing that. Tangle, as Whisper just walks past with a very concerned expression, is like, is there something we need to talk about?
And then Whisper simply tells her, no.
And then we get a panel of Whisper continuing to walk away while
Well,
Tangle has
oh,
this pouty puppy dog expression.
and Leyland and Sonic are like, this is boring. Or like, not boring, but like, they're like, just
I
like...
I need to zoom in on this. No, that still doesn't help. I have no idea what emotion they're supposed to be expressing.
I have the phone app. Let me just really quick, live on air. Fuck.
Yeah, the desktop Kindle app can only zoom in so far.
They have like sweat drops. They're
Like, are they uncomfortable? But this is not really the kind of uncomfortable you get from this situation, I think.
yeah, it looked put out.
Yeah, which is weird, and then it immediately goes away because it was just an expression for comedic effect, but like...
Mouse keep being too powerful. I'm sorry. Anyway,
it's fine. I don't need to see it.
yeah, but Sonic asks, should we keep heading into the city, or... And then Landolin says that I'd like to assess our surroundings first. And then asks Whisper if she can send this up with her hover wisp.
Which I would like to point out, it's a green wisp. It's actually weird this one didn't get caught, because, this is an official comic, but the wisps are referred to as their color. And their color powers are called, like, the color and then what the power is. So, like, green is green hover. And that's why the wispin that goes with the green wisp is called the hover wispin. Because it's the other half of it. That's the naming scheme. Anyway. Her green wisp, there's a part where there's just a panel where Whisper has flung her arms out to make her cape go back. I guess so we can look at the fact that her shirt is backless and we can see her back. And then the wisp comes out of the capsule with no real fanfare to it, and flies across the dividing line of the panel to land to rest in front of top of Lanolin, while Tangle is looking upset in a vague way, with her tail like wrapped around herself, but like it doesn't look right. Like I don't know. And like I thought at first she was hugging her own tail, but I think she just has her arms crossed.
Yeah, I think she does.
It doesn't look right, like physically. I don't think this actually works. Her tail kind of looks non-Euclidean right now, anyway.
Yeah.
Lanolin sends up this
green wisp.
Is that like... That looks like a reference.
Oh, it does actually. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but
is that a Dreamcast peripheral?
I don't think it's a VMU.
Okay, I never owned one.
It's something. It's like fucking like PlayStation 2 iToy. I don't know what it is, but like.
Anyway, it's a thing that looks like a reference, and it's got two baubles like the Miles Electric connected by a googly bop, and the green wisp flies it up. And then it's there and it has it, and it's up. And then we cut back to Lanolin having it again after the green wisp has flown down. Just panels of
the comic
nothing.
Can really cut through time when it feels like...
Just a lot of fluff.
Sonic asks what you find out at the end of this wasted page, and Lanolin confirms that the entire page is wasted when she says, comparing this data to your previous escape efforts, I can confirm that the city has gotten bigger, which, I could tell from the first page.
You'd think Sonic could tell, given the fact that there was a distinct outer wall that they stopped on before leaving, and there was a whole thing to it.
So that was the whole page that we just kind of spent on something anyone could tell from looking at it from the outside, which they would have had to in order to enter into it.
Yeah, and sorry, I was looking back, and I'm back here.
Yeah.
Tangle points out how he doesn't see any construction equipment, and not even any egg ponds and funny little hard hats.
I actually can't think of any time that egg ponds wear like hard hats. Have they done that?
I think they have.
Not often enough for me to just recognize that as a noticeable thing. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember if the comic has done this with like construction. I don't think the comic's highlighted construction. So
yeah, but
anyway,
Lanolin says that's true. I am working on limited data points. Maybe if we can survey from another point in the city. And then Sonic has an idea and asks the Green Wisp to give him a boost, which it does. And then he becomes a big green hedgehog head that's all pointy.
remember Sonic Colors? When he becomes a big head, he becomes a big green head, like he does.
And so begins and ends our second page of someone going up and looking at Imperial City.
Sonic now goes whoop whoop whoop. We could have just had Sonic do this and skip the other part. And then he goes up, and then he looks at a spot.
And then he comes back down, now that we've finally finished the 2 pages of someone going up and then looking at Imperial City and going back down. He says, I found a spot where Metal Sonic wrecked our initial escape plan. It's not only repaired, it's like we never even crashed. Lanolin remarks that she didn't think Eggman was the type to tidy up after himself, and Sonic says he's not. The city is getting bigger, but not only that, it can heal itself.
Wow. It's almost like nanotechnology's involved.
Lanolin asks how that's even possible, and Sonic says no idea. Because of course he wouldn't have any idea. Why would he know? This is new technology. And anyway.
I mean, I feel like maybe we're doing a thing where Lanolin is like, oh, he was hero worshipping Sonic, but now, oh, Sonic is not how he expected in person.
I mean, gotta say, these past few issues have been just ruining any positive feelings I think anyone could have about Sonic.
Then there's a large panel where Tangle has a comedic expression that I don't care for on her face, while she begs the Green Wisp to turn her into a flying green head.
To which Whisper says, maybe later, time to rest.
And now, for the first time, she has her mask on the side.
Yeah. So, then Lanolin monologues that if the city is growing and healing like a living thing, that it needs resources to fuel its construction.
Which, pretty rare for comics to pay attention to the fact that regeneration needs fuel.
Points for that.
How many, like, people's worth of himself does Wolverine regrow on a daily basis?
Every time.
Every time.
That's the answer.
He doesn't get someone eaten 2 months.
He should.
Where does he get the meat from? Anyway.
Sonic says that he didn't see any signs of Eggman's usual mining equipment. They're like 5 stories tall, they're hard to miss.
But Tangle points out that the trees around the city are in real bad place, so maybe it's pulling stuff from underground, which is what mining equipment does.
Sonic says that Bell said there's a whole network of tunnels under the city, let's check those out. And then Lanolin says, sounds good. Diamond cutters move out cautiously. And then Sonic and Tangle are like, oh. And then we have this kind of awkward...
Then there's an action panel of them, like, power walking at a weird angle.
Whisper looks like she's running.
Yeah.
Lana looks like she's walking.
I guess Whisper was further away, so he had to catch up. Sonic is walking, and you can see so little of Tangle's body, you can't tell what actions he's taking.
And then we have panels where they are moving.
Yeah, so we have an entire page of they are walking along. Wait, no. Oh, they're on an elevator.
Yes.
Then a panel for the elevators reach the bottom. Then another panel for the elevators reach the bottom, but now we see there are egg ponds. Then a panel for the egg ponds get destroyed by Tangle and Whisper.
And then a panel for them moving on from the badniks that they destroyed and deeper
Yeah.
into the tunnel.
Lanolin also uses her bell on birds. I assume they are destroyed afterwards.
We don't really get any idea.
We
how
don't
that
know
goes.
what her powers do or how they work or what their limits are, so maybe they can destroy small birds, like how the boomerang can destroy the geese, but not kill other enemies. I don't fucking know how it works.
And then we get a panel of all four of them.
Yeah,
walking.
on the next page.
Yeah, on the next page.
They're all walking through a tube, and then finally, anyone says anything.
Lanolin says, "This seems like the lowest point. Whisper, can clear the way for us?" And Whisper says, "Copy." And that's the end of the dialogue for this page. As an explosion happens, and
there's a boom, presumably from the Orange Wisp, and then
Sonic and Whisper grab hold of Tangle's tail as Tangle grabs hold of Lanolin.
And lowers her into the dark void as half of the page is taken up by nothing.
Yep.
And then in the very bottom right corner, there is a panel mostly obscured by purple effects of sound of Lanolin, I assume, tapping her bell.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get more than half the page of just Tangle and Lanolin suspended as we see that the underground is really hollow and all the rock that's left is like a lot of stone pillars.
Looks kind of like Pumpkin Hill, gotta say.
Honestly, it's odd.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the deal is.
Sonic asks if they found anything, and Lanolin remarks that they've found virtually nothing, which is the problem. It's drip mining everything underneath it. It's all being hollowed out. All the minerals, nutrients, plant life, gone. And Sonic says, "I get it. The city will keep expanding. It won't stop until Eggman's paved over the entire planet." With him just kind of like looking thoughtfully as a just shadowy specter of Eggman is behind him.
Yeah, cackling. In case you forgot who Eggman was, maybe.
And
in reality, it's clearly going for like some kind of like effect, but like it's also going for this effect in a tiny, scrunched up panel. So there's no room to have the Eggman, so it's all just really pressed close together, and I think that's what really ruins the effect. It's just you didn't put it in a good place. You needed a bigger panel.
Eggman's face looks all squished up here.
Yeah.
But Sonic says, "Not too shabby, Eggman. This makes the Death Egg look Bush League." And Lanolin says that they need to get back to Restoration HQ, rally all the support they can, and march on this place pronto. And Sonic offers, and hear me out, we just do it now. You've got the team, we're in the city, and I know that Eggman is in that big, ugly tower at the middle of it all. And
Lanolin, of course, rejects this plan because there's only 4 of them.
Mm-hmm. 2 of which are having relationship issues.
Yeah. And then they need to get stuck in some kind of hole to deal with that, where they can't get away from each other before they can go on some big mission.
Yeah. Where they'll maybe run into Starline, who knows.
But Sonic interjects that, of course, if they wait and marshal forces, then the city will keep growing.
And then Leyland counters that it'll grow unopposed if they get taken out today.
Tangle is now caught between her 2 parents, and it's like, those are both good points.
And then Whisper declares that, says, "You all fall back. I will stay and scout."
And then Tangle
just kind of explodes suddenly.
She's like, "Oh no, you don't. You just had your own close call." I guess referring to Surd's times. Mm-hmm. Quit trying to go solo. There's a movement around Whisper, so I guess Whisper has about-faced to face Tangle, but see, with the look on her face, it's the kind of look that I'd expect if, like, Tangle had run around to be in front of Whisper. you notice he looks like surprised, like, ah!
Oh, there you
But
are.
the movement line is clearly on Whisper that he turned.
Hmm.
Anyway, we don't get a resolution on this because there's a big "don't go here" symbol, the circle with the line through it, and it activates with a
Yeah.
Kerchak, and then it makes a portal.
Hmm.
And
Also, in
then,
the Kerchak panel, Whisper's mask is covering more of her face than it was in the immediate panel beforehand. But yeah.
yeah, there's a big portal, and Tangle's like, "That's the portal from Test Run."
Mm-hmm.
And the editor's note is like, "These issues."
And Sonic's like, "You're right. We do not want to pass through that.
And
Run!"
he says, "Run."
Yeah.
And then there's a panel of Sonic grabbing Tangle by the hand, and then Tangle grabs Lanolin and Whisper with her tail. And it's like, this never gets old. Woo!
Which is kind of... It feels like it's a little jarring from that emotional confrontation that happened 2 pages ago!
Ah.
But, Sonic keeps pushing forward. Really only Tangle seeming to enjoy this. And Sonic says, an ambush. Lovely. Elevator's out of
There's
service.
some robots.
Yeah. Elevator's out of service. Hang on tight. This is gonna get bumpy. And then we get a whole page dedicated to very long panels.
So, to just illustrate this point, there are 4 panels, all of them completely vertical from top to bottom, with the last one being slightly thicker than the rest because I guess there wasn't... I don't know. I don't know why they're not all the same. And they're just, all of them, Sonic going up the shaft while everyone else is being pulled along and, like, they're doing a bit of fighting. Like, there's a kick, there's a Whisper suiting, there's Lanolin going ding, ding, cowbell, cowbell.
Yeah.
And then as they get to the top, for some reason, I guess Lanolin slips out of Whisper's tail.
In the second panel.
And then in the third panel, and then grabs on in the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And is like, oh, I almost fell into the portal. But all of that is null because then a bird flies through Tangle and Sonic's hands, and there's this panel completely in silhouette where Tangle is falling, and Sonic, now standing on top of the shaft, is like, ah, and like you can kind of see his silhouette mouth open.
Yeah, yeah.
And then everyone falls into the portal, and then we see Sonic dodge away the portal, and dodge some birds, and then his only audible reaction and the only facial expression we get to see about it,
In the next page is him saying, "Oh, come on!"
while looking annoyed. Because for some reason, they spent the art buds that they had on showing Sonic react to his friends being lost on a silhouette panel where we can't see his face, and then when we do see his face clearly, he just looks put out by the fact that his friends might be dead.
So then Sonic faces more badniks, gets to a safe place, says
It's actually kind of unclear, because,
Very.
like, he's surrounded by robots, then there's a panel of a wall breaking, and then Sonic is in a ball. I don't know if these are related or where this wall is, and then Sonic is behind some pipes.
yeah, saying, "Hey Jewel, turns out I'm a lousy chaperone. The diamond cutters are in trouble and I'm kind of surrounded. I don't say this often, but I could use some help."
And he's talking to this wrist communicator that I guess he keeps under the folds of his glove.
Okay, and that's...
And then it says, next time reinforcements arrive, and...
That was...
This comic was not particularly good.
That was pretty bad.
There were, I think, 3 pages that were entirely taken up by only art and action with no dialogue. Multiple other pages that were significantly taken up by art and no dialogue, and that didn't... And here's the problem with it. It's okay to have art that progresses the story or is, like, important. Like, I won't oppose, like, the big panel of everything being empty because it's like meant to show off how bad the city is or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But like having 2 pages in a row of the Green Wisp goes up and looks, Sonic goes up and looks, it's just wasting time.
Yeah.
You know, having the big action panel for no reason before then having just a full page of they are moving,
Mm-hmm.
and then that page of darkness was completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
And a lot of these panels are also like really squished in. Like it's not just that one Eggman panel. There are a number of panels that feel like they don't have any room to breathe, and it just feels like everything was allocated really badly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's no way to salvage this. It's just like you should have planned it better.
Yeah. This should have
You planned
been.
it really badly.
Mm-hmm. So, I'd like to call in a bit of a family meeting here because yesterday I was on Tumblr and I saw some really distraught readers of this comic who were just kind of like calling in a group hug with them and their fellow Wispangle or Wangle shippers because things had gone pretty badly this issue. And like I'd seen with some other Sonic fans that I happened to see online, there was talk of like, wow, that really was jarring. But you know, I've been talking with other people, and after thinking about it for a while, I think it might lead to something good, worthwhile, like in the end. And I just want to like just call in real quick, call a family meeting, and just sit y'all down and ask. But what if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted? What are you gonna do then? And
Yeah.
because I don't want y'all to be blindsided when it doesn't really resolve very satisfyingly.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll be particularly satisfying when it resolves. I don't think it'll be like horrible. Like I saw some people reacting to this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm still getting over that same sickness from last month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I saw some people reacting to this issue, and in particular the preview pages, like very dramatically, and
Very offended.
it's just kind of badly written.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. It's just forced tension,
Mm-hmm.
which is annoying, and you don't like to see it. But like honestly, if I compare this to some of the Ian Flynn comics from before, it's it's just kind of bad.
Yeah.
This
It's
is like at worst like 51, a comic where nothing really happens.
yeah.
It's certainly not a 50. It's not a Zeddy Hunt,
No.
you know, and it's not
Yeah.
as just tiresome as anything from the Metal Virus arc.
Certainly not. Yeah. We haven't reached that low here.
Yeah.
But next month we are going to be getting more characters in Imperial City, and then the
Yeah,
month after that we're going to be
but
getting more.
before we focus on the future, I did want to bring up the cover art that is currently being displayed. The credit in the back is credited to Minho Kim,
Thank you.
who I believe is also the creator interview for this issue.
Lovely.
I've not read it. Maybe I will later.
Yeah.
I tend to not read the creator interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were also 2 other covers, both of which featured Lanolin,
Yes.
and one of which featured her Indigo Wisp.
Hmm.
Um,
Which I didn't really notice because, and I think a lot of people maybe didn't notice because that cover features Tango Whisper doing a kind of an awkward hand together thing.
yeah, and it's like, oh look, Lanolin is here, and it just looks like Tangle and Whisper are really uncomfortable with Lanolin here, and Lanolin looks like she's trying to look tough with pouting. Also, her Lanolin is faded in with purple, so
Yes.
honestly, the Indigo Wisp just faded right in to
Yeah.
her hair for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm. think now I can understand. Like it's like, oh, Diamond Cutters. That's the team.
It's like, oh yeah, they're kind of making a diamond, and in the Item Bryce Thomas cover, it's like there's a lot of diamonds and a diamond with a piece out of it, like it looks like it's made of construction paper. I don't know, and there's rings.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of visuals going up the Adam Bryce Thomas cover, the cover B, but I don't know if it adds up to anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, we already have, of course, solicits and such for the next couple of issues. The next month cover shows Tails and Amy, because of course Tails and Amy are arriving next issue. Are you going to look up the solicits so we can remember exactly what order so many characters are going to be here?
Yeah. For issue 58, the deck curiosity is too much for Sonic, Tangle, Whisper, and Lanolin to handle on their own. So, it's time for Tails, Amy, Silver, and Blaze to the rescue.
Yeah, because as people may remember, we did review it in the annual recently. Silver was featured having come back to the past, but not really knowing why, I think.
Yeah.
He didn't really know what his purpose was. And Blaze, meanwhile, had a big talk with Knuckles and decided that she can just hang out and not always be in her kingdom. Which I guess is all there to have them sew up and there.
Yeah. Then
anyway, they're gonna be here.
And then the issue after that, when Evan Stanley takes over.
Yeah, right. I was just gonna point out. Next issue is being written by Ian Flynn again, but then Evan Stanley will be writing after that, and I believe wrapping up this current story arc, which is called Urban Warfare.
Yeah. Androids will be everywhere.
Apparently.
And Shadow, Omega, and Rouge will be there as well.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why androids are everywhere. Maybe next issue androids will happen, and then I'll understand why androids are everywhere. And maybe next issue they'll be like, oh, Shadow and Rouge and Omega, you have to all come here now. Or maybe they'll just sew up? I don't know.
And then for the solicit in 60, it just says the battle rages on, but how do you fight a city? Sonic and friends race to stop Imperial City from expanding, Baddox from attacking, and Dr. Eggman from...
As I recall, you... was it viruses or bombs? I think it might have been viruses?
What?
The last time they fought a city.
Yeah.
18 years ago, in a Sonic comic.
Yeah.
In Sonic's Angels. The story that is a lot like this, except they wrapped it all up very much more quickly. Remember when comics fucking ended? You remember when comic storylines just happened and didn't have a massive amount of wasted art and panel space, and you could just get a decent amount of story in for your money's worth?
Yeah. I also would just like to just bring up, because we were going over it at the beginning of the review, but I'm just gonna say just up front, point blank, Whisper left the Restoration because she didn't want people to get hurt by Mimic.
Yeah,
now
a status quo that has not changed.
Yeah, but like she's here.
Yeah, that's the thing. After she was hurt by Surds and all that, like, there could have been a moment where, like, I don't know, Tangle and Whisper reunite, and then Tangle is like, no matter, we'll face it together, it's better to be together, or whatever. But none of that happened, and so because there's been no change in Whisper's status quo, the fact that she's back with the Restoration just feels really like it's cheapening what Trial by Fire was trying to set up.
Yeah.
And, like, maybe we'll get a flashback next issue or, somewhere in the story arc. But, like, it's something that I think should have been covered already.
Yeah.
And honestly, with all the wasted panels that had no storytelling in them, there was plenty of room. So much room to put anything in there.
But instead...
honestly, it feels like the story was plotted out, and then they realized they had too many pages for this part, but because the writer was changing after the next issue, they couldn't shuffle things around too much. So we just end up with a comic that doesn't have much story in it.
It's just not very good.
It's bad.
It is really bad, and
I mean, I wouldn't
it's
even say it's really bad. I think it's just bad.
like
I don't know.
both
They
things I said weren't
suck.
right. um,
Both, you said two things.
as I said, it was really good, and you said it was bad, and I said it was really bad, and you're like, no, it's not bad. No, it's not really bad.
Well,
But
what I'm trying to say is that, like, I it's hard to say anything about this comic in particular, other than like the fact that it was badly laid out and formatted, and
yeah.
really just sort of gone back to the drawing board with it. Um, just because there really wasn't much content. Like the most of the things I had to talk about and had to felt like I had anything interesting to say about was like the things around it, like the things it didn't follow up on,
Mm-hmm.
including a thing I'm glad it didn't follow up on, or seems to not be following up on, the previous attempt to give Lanlin a character, which I can only hope the editors or someone at Sega or someone like realized what they were going for, what they seemed to be going for, um, and
And put a
said
stop to
no,
that.
because it really seemed like they were going for something that I was not caring for even a little bit, and I don't know what her character is right now because we haven't seen her in a neutral area and state, so I don't know
Mm-hmm.
again if she's meant to be easily frazzled, if she's meant to be cool and composed, what her character is. She used to be just always kind of and now
Yeah.
she's not ever. She's both and ah.
Mm-hmm. So that's the comic. We've
That's the
got
comic.
one more issue of Ian
It's
Flynn after this.
yeah, and I'm gonna read it, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna read it because this comic made me want to read it. I'm gonna read it so that I have context for the issue that comes after it because I think Evan Stanley's a good writer. Um, in all of the issues he's put out for IDW Sonic, there's been exactly one I was disappointed by.
Mm-hmm.
So, track record, real good.
Yeah. We'll see what the story's like once she wraps it up. Gotta say though, I'm not loving just the routine we're getting into with just like here's issue 50 and then here's Overpowered, which is wrapping up what issue 50 started, and then here's Urban Warfare, now Evan's taking over to wrap it up.
Yeah. I mean, at least with this one, it is all a concrete storyline where it's just they're doing writers changing in between where issue 50 was like the culmination of imposter syndrome, but then Surge and Kit were still here, and then they had a different story arc, and it was kind of also, it was weird, and there was too much of it.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be 5 issues long, as far as we know.
Uh-huh.
Please only be 5 issues. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to. I don't want Eggtropolis. It's a bad city, not because it's a villainous city. Honestly, I nothing has been done to show us the city like expanding. We haven't seen its effect. Heck, we didn't even see the trees looking bad, I don't think.
We didn't, I don't think.
Like maybe 49 they mentioned something about the trees. I don't know. That was almost 10 issues ago.
Yeah. I
And that's the
wish.
problem with like all
Yeah.
this happening over so long a time and then being told, oh, that city where Surge and Sonic and Eggman and everyone fought, it was important, apparently. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I mean not to compare this to the other comic that was very similar in premise to it again, but like I remember like I seem to remember in the lead up to the Sonic the Angel story, I think it was in the B story of the previous issue. Like there was a thing where the AI that was controlling it, sort of half gets permission from Eggman because he's a bit of a diabolical AI,
Mm-hmm.
and then activates the big nanite city. and I believe we see it encroaching on the environment and taking over and destroying nature. And like,
Yeah.
why don't we get to see the city expand? Why don't we get to see like the effect it's having on the nature? We're being told about it. We're being shown a kind of perplexing whole like rock doesn't like how do you how do I how
Instructions
does it
unclear.
like I get that it's probably going to be nano scenes. It was nano scenes last time anyway, and like whatever, and sure, but like if we're not sown at any point or even given a hint that the like there was no hint that the city could regenerate itself last time. We don't even know how long it was ago. Like we don't know how much time has passed. We don't know how long the city takes to move or expand or heal itself.
Yeah.
We don't know if just like getting a bunch of sips and carpet bombing the whole thing would solve the issue. Maybe it would.
But that's all the comic we have today.
Yeah, we'll be back again next month whenever the next comic is out, and
Yep. Until then, I feel really sorry for all the people who got excited for this issue.
I mean it sucks. And I remember that like I was stuck in a position where I was kind of holding myself back from getting excited because Ian,
Yeah.
but then Tangle and Whisper the miniseries was good, so maybe I should get excited. And then
Yeah.
ultimately, like by the time the preview pages were out, I just didn't even want to think about this comic. I was just
Uh-huh.
yeah, and reading it was just kind of blah.
Mm-hmm.
The next one will probably also be bad, and we'll review that, and then Evan will take over, and that'll probably be at least better than this.
Mm-hmm. Until then, thank y'all for tuning in. We please feel free to follow our Twitch channel. We try to stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays like the day before yesterday, and Thursdays like today. And if you're watching from our YouTube VOD channel, which is linked to on our Twitch profile, you can please feel free to like, comment, or subscribe. Closer reads the comments.
I do.
And also, our Twitch account is linked to on the YouTube description, so you can just follow that link and try and catch us live. But for now, I think we're about done.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that with me, Cluster. Thank y'all for watching. See y'all next time. I'm Felicia Rondo. That's Cluster over there.
Hey.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.